Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Helm to Tower podcast. And it's finally time. The thing we pretty much talked about every episode up until this point. It's finally time to talk about Strand in depth because they gave us a nice blog to talk about. We'll get into that, but first I want to know, how are you doing, my co-host Alex O'Neill?
I am so good. It's one of those things where I was looking forward to doing this all week, and that's how you know it was a good week for Destiny.
Yep, same here. It's a lot of really cool stuff to talk about.
Too much, one might say.
Yeah, too much. You know, as we'll say, starting off this podcast, we're literally recording it over the weekend after everything has happened, and we literally just got a tease from game director Joe Blackburn about a big state of the game discussion, or like article he's going to do rather. And that's probably going to go up as soon as this episode pretty much goes live. More than likely, they'll probably be up the same day. So, you know, hey, at least we can call it out this time instead of we put a thing out and the thing literally happens the same day. But that's a running joke between multiple podcasts. Me and Alex do.
It just keeps happening.
It just keeps happening. But it's fine. That's because we have so much to talk about in this episode. It would have made this episode like 5 hours or something if we tried to fit in all of it. So you'll get that episode, and then we will have another episode this the same week as always. We're trying to stick to weekly as long as we can. We have a lot of info to talk about. So next episode we'll talk about that state of the game discussion, and obviously all the other things that are going to happen in Destiny. But we had a ton
and the
of
finale.
Stuff. Yeah,
the finale is also
exactly. Yeah, the finale will be that same week for the season of the Seraph. The finale is happening the day after that blog post. So there'll be a lot to talk about already. But still a lot to talk about because we had a whole jam-packed week of stuff before this. Like we said, Strand was more properly revealed. We got a trailer that they showed. Amazing trailer. I loved it.
An excellent trailer.
Very cool. We got at the same time we got a blog going deeper into Strand. We learned the verbs and all that stuff, so we're gonna talk about that first. But we also got a more abilities tuning article with like basically gave us a little bit of info about how they're adjusting ability energy costs and other things like that coming with Lightfall. A lot of changes there. And of course, the TWAB updated us on the Spiders and Beetle voting, and as well as what's going into the content vault and what's not going in the content vault. There's actually some good stuff staying, which is exciting. So a lot of stuff to talk about, like I said. But let's get into it, Alex. The time is here. We talked about it so much every episode. Strand. Also,
my co-host, Mike Burgess.
Yes, yeah, I'm Mike Burgess. Yep, I'm here. Hello. Strand. We're ready.
Don't have time for that.
We don't have time. Yeah, we don't have time for it. Because we only have time to learn about grappling and green weaving powers. That is Strand.
And all the glow drip that we learned about a little bit later that we have to start thinking about.
Now do we want to get all that solstice armor glow, glowing green? Maybe.
So you last week when we got the exotics trailer, you were definitely like, I want to know what's going on. I want to know how this works. How are you feeling now?
Better. Much better. Not that I was like upset or anything.
Apprehensive. Apprehensive.
Yeah, is a good way to put it. Where it's just like I just want to know about this now because you're teasing us, and I don't need the teases anymore. Dang it! Just give me the info, and they gave us the info, and it's really cool. I'm really excited for all three of these classes against some of the community sentiment maybe towards the Titan subclass, which we'll get into, but I think all three of them sound really interesting. And you know, again, there'll be plenty of things that like once we actually get into the game and start playing, that like my interest in things or my hope for things might waver or change, of course, but like at least on paper this all sounds really cool, and I'm already sitting here going like, if I can do this on a hunter, would I get this? Or, I should probably start getting discipline stat armor because I'm going to be grappling a lot on a hunter. Should I really be focusing in on these things? Because, like, you're going to have way more melee charges on classes than we're normally going to have compared to what some of the other classes have right now. And that's really cool. what exotics paired with those will change that as well. So there's a lot of really interesting
How
stuff.
are Claws of Ahamkar going to work? I'm so confused.
Yes,
Is Titans with armamentarium just going to be also super grapple?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Have 2 grapples all the time. Yep, that's good.
Yeah, that's just wild.
Yeah, just does Kepri's horn work with the Strand blast? So you have like 2 big blasts coming out at the same time of Solar and Strand. That could be cool because the suspend and the burn, it could like hit each other at the same time. You could do a bunch of crazy stuff. Could be really cool. We'll have to see. Some of that stuff we'll have to see once we get it in our hands. Which I'm like, which I always kind of like that sometimes they leave some of that stuff for us to discover, and that makes it makes like that first week so much more fun of like seeing all these clips online of just like, oh my god, that does work together. Look at this crazy thing, right? Like
like the clips of like the triple grappling piggyback of like 3 people all grappling to each other in like a big long like monkeys holding each other situation. Like as soon as those clips start coming out, I'm like, yes, here we go. Yes, this is what I want.
Amazing. Yeah, somebody going to some obnoxious platforming puzzle in a raid, and one person starting it, and then one person just like grappling that person, and then there's just like a chain of grappling all of them together, so all 6 of them are getting across or something. It'd be really cool to see if like that stuff can propel like speed running and other crazy things in a way where you're like not even gonna know until people start messing with it. Really cool. But let's get into this. Let's get into the article, because ultimately the trailer, I'll play the trailer over us talking about this stuff, of course, but the article breaks it all down in a better way, I think, than the trailer does, because obviously the trailer is just gonna be flashy and cool, and it definitely was flashy and cool. But this gives us the deets. The deets.
Yeah. What I like too about the trailer, and they're always really good about this stuff, is they show almost everything in that trailer.
Yeah.
Pretty quickly sometimes, but like you see just about every ability of every class at least once or sometimes twice with a couple of things. Yep,
for sure. Yeah, they do a good showcase of that stuff and show it them in very cool ways. And fun ways as well. So I guess we can just go down from the start here. We have our verbs. Let's talk about our verbs first. So we have the debuff verbs are suspend, unravel, and sever. So suspending, you've probably seen a lot of the footage. It's when you see like the hunter do the dive, which is one of their abilities, or the titan put up their barricade and shoots out a blast. It suspends enemies up in these like green threads. So that is suspending an enemy. That is one of the main verbs. That's what it will do in PvE. It lifts them off the ground. And they're basically, they're unable to attack while they're in that. But however, in PvP, it will still suspend a PvP opponent, but it will not leave them unable to attack. They'll be able to basically like kind of move around a little bit slowly, and then they'll be able to hip fire their weapons. So you'll still have a little bit of fighting back in that. I'm very curious if like the 8 airborne effectiveness plays into that. Like that's
what I was gonna say. Like, if you're suspended, does it force you into an AE state? Right. So having poor AE, like it puts you in a bad position. I'm really curious.
Yeah, for sure. And that's that'll be very interesting to see how that plays out. I'm sure people will ultimately just complain about the stuff. So it's
right at the top here, I'm just gonna say, like, listen, I know they kept saying there's like supplementary articles and stuff we got from this. Yeah. They're like, we really don't want it to be broken in PvP. I mean, there's no freeze. There's no 5-second freeze or whatever. Right. In this.
You're not completely helpless.
You're not completely helpless. I think, you just got to understand people that are like waiting for people to get upset. It's going to be new and different, and people are going to feel like it's broken out the gate anyway. Yeah. It's just, that's how sentiment is. Try not to get too upset about it. We've thankfully had like a lot of nice people listening to this show, and I'm very grateful. Yep. Just take a minute. It'll be fine, especially like after a couple of weeks when people figure stuff out a lot more after the raid and stuff.
Yeah,
it's just going to be new and different.
Yeah, once you have kits made, there's going to be so many different things with build crafting, like slotting in mods different ways. There's just going to be so much like different how you're like approaching to like the game in like by PvE and PvP. So like you're totally right. Like a lot of people aren't going to know what Strand is doing fully out the gate. So people are just going to go into a PvP match and be like, what the heck? This dude's flying over the thing 40 times. Like, the people are going to, this is nuts. How am I going to do? What am I supposed to do? Bungie. Figure it
don't
out,
play two PvP matches and then take to the streets. All right.
Yeah.
Just like chill out is what I'm saying.
Yeah, seriously. And of course, like there's still stuff we don't know about. There'll be more exotics and like other weapons we haven't even gotten yet, so we don't know the full extent.
And a Strand glaive, obviously, that they're just keeping secret.
Strand glaive, still believe. Excuse me. So that's Suspend. It looks cool. Like that's been the big showpiece of a lot of trailers and all the PvE gameplay we've seen of just the hunter diving and like putting a bunch of people up in the air, like. And then throwing their melee, which we'll get into, like through them, like that. That's like a fun loop. So I'm still think it's really cool. The next one was Unravel. So attacking an unraveled enemy will cause threads to burst out of the target and attack other nearby targets. Once hit, the target also becomes unraveled. So this kind of sounds like basically like the equivalent of like a scorched. Or like a jolt. It's like a little bit of both.
Jolt, kind of.
Yeah, it's like a little bit of both because I don't think jolt spreads, but I know you do have to shoot an enemy to like proc the jolting of like arcing out lightning stuff. Basically that sounds like Unravel a little bit, where you have to still hit the enemy that shoots out like threads, and those threads can hit other enemies, which like kind of gives them that debuff as well. I think they talked about this in one of the things, and they said there's a Strand damage perk coming, and I think it's going to be this, or like something related to this, because it makes the most sense out of all of these. Because I think like a weapon that can suspend would be insane.
I could see like something like on a precision kill creating a suspending explosion, like something like that, kind of like Dragonfly. But Unravel is kind of like the one that I have the hardest time wrapping my head around.
Right.
Just in that, like, when it says threads to burst out of the target, are they doing damage? Are they just like also unraveling? Does being unraveled get you something? Like, does it do something for you?
That's how you get a tangle. When you defeat an enemy affected by Strand, that unravels them, and that makes the tangle. So like it is like a debuff. So like when you unravel and when you defeat an unraveled enemy, I think that's how you make a tangle.
Yeah, because like the tangle, which is the next thing after sever, but like it says like defeating an enemy affected by Strand. So I didn't know if that was like severed or suspended or unraveled, like anybody. Or if it's just
it could be any of them. Yeah, that's true. That's just kind of what I thought, because like that makes sense.
That makes sense. What you're saying makes sense.
Yeah, that's what made sense to my brain, because like it's like they're calling it unravels that are being unraveled and then
into a
tangle. Their life force or whatever. So that's what it made sense to me. But you're right. Like it is possible that maybe just being caught up in a suspended enemy, you can make sense of that too. Where like, oh, they're suspended in the threads. So now when they fall down, you just have that tangle of whatever the life threads or whatever tangle Strand threads are ultimately. And like you said, there's one more. There's Sever. A severed enemy is less capable of affecting the material world, reducing their damage output as well as a result. This one has a lot of potential as well, because we don't really have a lot of like debuffs that straight up just make enemies do less damage, and I think that's like an interesting way to do that. And I think one thing to point out is, again, there was definitely a lot of discourse and kind of poo-pooing on the Titan class, because all we're seeing is the footage. In the footage, you're just kind of seeing a Titan punching or slicing dude with the big arm blade, which I think is still cool. But like I get that it's we've seen so many Titans just kind of like running up and punching a dude and stuff. But the big thing about that the slashes they have is it procs this sever, so it seems like they will be the best at putting this on enemies. So I think if depending on how effective that damage reduction is, that could be like one of the best things in the game.
Yeah, if it's like a 30% damage reduction or something like that, this is like this and Woven Mail, which is like the only buff that we know about. Very interesting, right? With the resilience change, and just where resilience is at. altogether. Yeah, I really like the idea of weakening enemies, not like the weaken we know where they take more damage, but where they do less damage. And that makes melee a much more viable option.
Yeah,
so
exactly. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so I'm definitely very very curious to that. That'll definitely be one that's like it will be a little make or break just knowing what is that damage threshold. They get weakened by. Like if it's a lot, it'll be really good. If it's not that much, it'll kind of be useless because, like you said, it will be all about getting in their face and applying it potentially. Where we don't know if we'll have another way to apply it just yet. That could be potentially better than with a Titan.
This could also be the Strand's weapon perk, like I know we're sitting here, but like but ranged debuff, just because then you can take a Strand weapon with another subclass, and then it has this utility that kind of like jolt shot or volt shot,
Yeah, it's definitely possible, but I guess I was just thinking of, they said damage perk. And unraveling sounds more like it would
more damagey.
Yeah, more damagey, where you're applying the unraveling to an enemy, which is, I guess, could do some kind of damage, and the threads that come out will also damage other targets. But we'll have to see. Like I think either the unravel or sever. Like if we get like severing rounds or something, and it like weakens enemies or something, that could be cool.
That'd be sick.
But yeah, we'll have to see. Then like you said, we have one kind of object we're making, which they showed off in the last trailer, which is a tangle. And like you said, it's a defeating enemy affected by Strand will unravel them, disconnecting their life force from the weave and creating a tangle. So we know a few things we can do with the tangle from that previous trailer. We can shoot it, and it'll explode. You can pick it up and throw it, and it'll damage enemies. I'm curious if like throwing a tangle at something can also debuff, put one of these debuffs on an enemy. Maybe that's like some kind of aspect. I don't know if they said any aspect that would affect that, or maybe there's like a fragment that could do that. Like throwing a tangle at an enemy will apply like unraveling or sever onto them or something.
Yeah, we don't know yet, but there's certainly tons of potential there.
Yeah.
This is the one thing, right? Like, well, I guess two, because they kind of go together. We know one of these things is going to have some effect on, I forget which champions, but some champions.
Right. Yeah.
I'm curious which ones, because I guess we don't know still.
Yeah. I can pull that up while you're
pull up the champion thing. But the other thing is, like, we know that that there is an object like fire sprites and stuff for Strand, and I guess it's tangles, but they don't seem to give you any ability energy. So
there could be
they're
something
not like
else.
A thing or there could be a mod that you get that's like when you are holding a tangle, your class ability recharges faster or something. Who knows?
Right.
But yeah, they said that all of the classes are going to have some kind of item to collect now, and Strand will have one as well. The only one we know about is the tangle. So I just that seems like a very like kinetic thing. Like you pick it up and toss it, or you grapple to it, or whatever. So I don't know how that plays into ability energy.
Yeah, for sure. So it is barriers and unstoppables are the Strand counters. So I think suspend might be for unstoppables. That would be my guess. And then like barriers maybe would be unravel. That would be my guess.
Oh yeah, maybe like the unraveling things will go through barriers.
Yeah.
Who knows? Another credence to
sever.
Maybe...
Like they could all technically work on those somewhat, but I guess we'll have to see. They didn't specify that in this Strand blog. They did bring up another thing with tangles, which I think you briefly mentioned, was that you can tangles also become grapple points, and you can grapple to them, and it doesn't use your grenade energy, which the grapple is now a grenade. That's been like officially confirmed. It was assumed because we saw like a lot of it in the footage, but yeah, we saw they explicitly said the grapple is one of your grenade types you can pick from, and yeah, so you can grapple to a tangle and use it, and that's like a crazy, I think, utility with those things in and of itself, because you can anybody can create them. Any of the classes can create them in some way, shape, or form, and then anybody can pick up and throw it, and somebody can just hold it. And like they showed in the trailer, I think in the trailer they showed a special tangle which the hunter makes, which I know that's one of their aspects, is they make like a unique kind of tangle that has that similar ability to grapple to. But they show somebody throw a tangle and somebody grabs it with their grapple and goes up to a ledge to fight a bunch of enemies and stuff.
It seems like after they spawn in, you can also like pull them toward you, like grapple, and then you'll hold it. Okay. Is kind of what they implied. And then if you throw it and grapple, you'll go with it.
Yeah.
So I don't know, like maybe it's contextual. If it's in the air, you pull it down toward you, or if it's on the ground, you pull it down towards you. And then if it's in the air, you pull yourself toward it. Not really sure how it works yet. It's one of those just things that we just got to get our hands on.
Yeah.
Regardless, it all sounds good.
Yeah. It just sounds really crazy. Indeed. Yeah. They put it, I don't think it was, if you put it down in the article, in your, doc
I don't have it in here,
but they gave like an example of that, of like somebody grappling, somebody making a tangle, and then throwing, getting it, throwing it, and then grappling to their own tangle they just threw, which lets them soar through the air. Excuse me, and then grapple to another enemy. Do with the grapple, they did give like something offensive with it, where you can you do a melee out of the grapple, and any class can do that. So they like come out of it and do that, which then lets them do that, and then they can like drop down and suspend, or you can come out of the grapple and suspend. So it sounds like they talked it up in the like kind of more like developer-y terms. They called it APM, or actions per minute class, where it's all about being very, very kinetic and doing like a bunch of things in tandem with the class moment to moment to like get a lot of effects off.
Yeah, I have the quote here. I was pulling it up. I defeat an enemy with a melee ability, then unwind it into a tangle, grapple onto the tangle, which refunds my grapple, and snatch the tangle out of midair. So that was where I kind of got that idea of like maybe just grab it toward you.
Right.
I then hurl the tangle at a group of enemies in the distance, grapple onto the tangle again. While it flies, pulls me through the air behind it. As the tangle nears the group of enemies, I slam down out of my grapple and suspend the lone enemy who split off from the group, while the tangle slams into the rest of the group and explodes. There's a lot of really cool dynamic interaction built in. That just sounds amazing.
Yeah, that sounds really amazing. And like the fact that you like how like you can do that exponentially with like multiple people, right? Where like somebody else can be throwing that tangle and somebody else can grapple onto it. Like we don't know yet if like multiple people can grapple onto a single tangle, but you have like one person just throw a tangle and everyone can just grab onto it and just go with it.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, we're just into battle we go, and just like yeet up into the air. Hunter drops,
and we're certainly going to be doing that with
suspends.
Titan crashes.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
for sure.
I hope you can grapple onto a Nova.
Yeah, you're pretty cool. Just slowly
very
as it's trying to like trek around to some dude, and hopefully not miss. I'm sure you'll be able to they showed you can grapple onto stuff like the train and the one strike and warn to nothing. So I'm assuming you can like grapple onto like sparrows and like other moving stuff. Like I want to see somebody
didn't think about sparrows. Yeah. Definitely didn't think about sparrows.
I feel like that should be possible. And like
for sure,
can you like ride around it? Like, are you just like sliding around behind it on a jet ski or something?
Skiff or whatever. What is it called? Skiffing or we jet ski around. Absolutely. Please.
Yeah, that would just be like ridiculous and silly. So yeah, a lot of potential. Some of the, again, we've said a couple times, just we'll have to see if everything plays out how we're hoping. But like even regardless, like some of this stuff, just baseline sounds really cool.
Yeah, even if it's like the least interesting version of this that we're talking about, it still sounds super fun.
Yeah, exactly. And then the last buff we have, which is kind of the main buff they talked about, was Woven Mail. The major buff coming with Strand is Woven Mail. With this ability, the Guardian is sheathed in a protective mesh of Strand matter, reducing incoming damage. Note that in PvP, Woven Mail will only reduce damage taken on the body. Hit damage and melee damage will continue as normal. So that's it's like a smart kind of like balancing approach to it, instead of just like a full damage reduction. Like I know a lot of people are not do not like the Void Titan with all the barrier stuff going on, and all the over shields and things like that. And it seems like this is maybe a way to try and approach balancing that again. But again, I think ultimately though, like there will still be way more barrier overshield stuff going on because now there's 2 classes that are technically doing it all the time. So, it'll be interesting. And yeah, we don't know the exact damage numbers of like how much this protects you and on stuff, but like again, another utility for that Titan class. We know like the Hunter has an exotic that will give them that ability when they grapple, but the Titan I think just flat out has the ability to give people woven mail like they do, like the Void Titan does. So I think like it being a interesting utility class also sounds kind of cool.
Yeah, when destroying a tangle weaves woven mail onto the Titan and nearby allies. That's one of their aspects. I'm curious what I imagine like the later aspects that we're going to get in future seasons will start opening up some of the other verbs to the other classes. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious what that's going to look like.
Yeah, for sure. After woven mail, we got the grenade breakdowns. And some fragments as well that just a couple fragments they shouted out to us. So again, the grapple is one of the melee options, but there will be actual grenades. There is the shackle grenade, which was in the trailer. It looks like a bola, which is like the string. It's like a string with a bunch of like 3 big like metal balls on the end, but it's like a strand version of that. So you see somebody throw it and it throws out, and then it does like an initial explosion on an enemy and strands that and like suspends them up. But then if it'll explode into smaller ones that if those hit other enemies, that'll suspend as well. So that looks like a pretty strong tool as well.
Yeah.
So that seems pretty cool. And then there is the threadling grenade is the other one. And so this will be kind of your big warlock thing. This is like their dominant thing are threadlings, which they kind of showed off in a couple trailers now, where they make these little aphid-looking creature, like bug-like creatures that will roam around the ground, and they will like track to enemies and explode. So this just makes 3 of them. Did it say?
Yeah, it's like a skip grenade. You kind of throw out 3. Yeah. There's a shot of it in the trailer pretty early on. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's cool. And again, a lot of potential there too. I appreciate these feel more like damaging grenade options, so you can actually get Strand ability kills for all of the unlock aspects side quests that you get where it's like get grenade kills.
It sounds pretty rad for sure.
And the grapple also, everybody can do a grapple punch, which is very good.
I like it quite a lot as well. Hold on 1 second here.
Sorry. You're good.
And we're back. Nothing crazy happened. Don't worry about it. Anyway, we were talking about grapple punches. Yeah, each the grapple will have a melee to talk about. Like once you come out of the grapple, you'll be able to like do a grappling melee out of it.
Goes to third person and everything, which is really cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. They showed in earlier trailers and stuff as well. Like that's in that Thunder Crash trailer where you see like a hunter like grappling onto the Thunder Crash Titan, and then he lets go, and then he grapples another enemy and like lunges in and like melees them. That's like that whole thing. So that's pretty cool. I'm glad they gave that offensive thing because it seemed like it would have been like if it didn't have that, then you just be like completely vulnerable. Like, you come out of a grapple and be like immediately vulnerable.
Yeah, they did a lot of cool offensive things with the grapple that we'll get to a little bit later. But yeah, very good stuff.
Yeah, but those were the 3 grenade types that we had. So we can talk about the fragments. So the fragments we got were Thread of Ascent. Activating your grenade ability reloads your equipped weapon and grants increased weapon handling and airborne effectiveness for a short time. That sounds like a
demolitionist.
Yeah, it sounds like a good like PvP kind of thing potentially. Mm-hmm. Thread of Fury, damaging targets with a tangle, grants melee energy. So that'll be pretty good. I think for like Titans and stuff. Mm-hmm. Thread of Finality, finishers generate threadlings. That sounds pretty cool. Definitely useful on the Warlock for sure, as we'll get into. And then Thread of Warding, picking up an orb of power, grants woven mail. So that'll be really good as well. Potentially.
Very similar to like the Devourer fragment.
Yeah.
Like that they're called threads also. I was wondering what they would be called. They're all threads.
Yep.
Pulling at the threads.
Pulling at the threads, for sure. So that's like the general overview of all the Strand stuff that we know. We know the verbs and the grenades and stuff that each class will have. But now let's get into the specifics of each class.
The goodies.
The goodies. You kindly broke down all of the stuff in the trailer with the timestamps. So if you want to go through the trailer and see some of these timestamp things, you can know when they are in there. So that's pretty cool. But not everything was shown. Like they kind of gave us like teases of things and like in gameplay in that trailer, and then broke down everything in the blog, which I think was helpful for sure. To see all that. So the big thing we have up first here is the Warlock Broodweaver. I know you're probably very excited about this as the Warlock main.
This sounds so hype, dude.
It's really it's really different from any other Warlock class in the game, right? Where it is like basically as close as we've come in Destiny to having a like proper like summoner,
summoner and necromancer
style class where you have like creatures and these threadlings to kind of do your bidding. So threadlings are things, we mentioned, like there's a threadling grenade. Any class can use that grenade and it'll make threadlings and they'll come out and attack and stuff. So like threadlings will be available to other classes and stuff. But the big thing with the Warlock is their aspect that makes these things last longer and be around more. That's basically we'll go into it. Weaver's Call. On Riftcast, the Warlock weaves 3 threadling eggs, which hatch into threadlings when they hit a surface. Any perched threadlings are converted to additional eggs. So basically, so when you have this one. I think
the perching is just like a warlock thing.
Period. Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
That's
like
really
threadlings will. Yeah, I know. It's like a passive of the Broodweaver. Threadlings will come back to you. Other classes can do like finishers to do threadlings and the threadling grenade, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But like for Warlock, they'll come back to you and they'll perch, is what they describe it, which is just
perching.
Great way to describe it, and they'll just like orbit around you. We see a little bit of it a couple of times in the trailer, and then as soon as enemies show up again, they'll like jump out and go after them. It's awesome.
It's pretty wild. It seems like a lot of fun, and like it seems like there's a lot of moment to moment play style things you can do on this class to like be like, all right, I know this battle is coming up, so let me do things in this battle to like collect up some threadlings and then go into this bigger battle with like a bunch of them perched or whatever. So that sounds pretty cool. That's something just like a very interesting like gameplay loop there. So that was the big thing. The other aspect.
Mind spun invocation.
This aspect improves several of the Warlock abilities, and this is like usually what the Warlock has had, where they have like an aspect that like powers up all their grenade types. So this one makes it when you execute a grapple melee, the Warlock weaves 3 threadling eggs from the target. So that's
awesome.
That's also really good because you make the grapple like way more offensive, and you can do that melee and make a bunch of threadlings. Threadling grenade, when you consume your threadling grenade, it generates a full complement of perched threadlings. So we don't know what a full complement is, but I'm assuming it's like basically like the max threadlings you can have on you at one time,
or 3. I assume it might not be the max. Just
that
might be a lot.
That is pretty fair. Just like a free.
Imagine like Crucible, deal. Just a dude rolls up with like 5 spinning threadlings around you.
Yep. We're boned with that dude running around. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but again, this like you do this, and then on the Weaver's Call, the Riftcast will create 3 more eggs, and if you have eggs, it'll spew them out, right? Like it's just wild. It's
pretty crazy. Like that it seems like already there's just like some insane potential gameplay loops of like you can just always have these threadlings going at all times.
And I will.
That'll be pretty crazy. I really want to see that. Also in tandem with like using like the colony grenade launcher from way back in the day. Bust that back out.
Nothing but minions.
Yeah, and just have like shooting out little spider grenades and making thread.
Let's get a buff. Maybe it'll be meta.
Yeah, we'll see. That'd be pretty nuts if they updated that to do to like work with that in some way. Like the grenades, they explode and make an extra threadling out of the grenade or something.
Please.
That'd be pretty nuts. Then the last grenade you can do, you can also do a consume on your shackle grenade to gain a buff, creating a suspending detonation on every kill. Yeah, that sounds pretty cool. Yeah, they showed in the trailer where Warlock eats their grenade. They shoot like a Vex enemy and then they explode with Strand and 2 next to them and get like threaded up and suspended. So yeah, that seems like it could be really strong too. That's like a lot of really powerful stuff.
I know, like all of this sounds great. This was honestly one of the ones I was most excited about, partly because we can see it in the trailer. Yeah. They do a great job of showcasing it. I like this aspect a lot because we've never had a thing where, depending on what type of grenade you consume, it will have a different effect on you. Obviously the Void Walker has like the magnetic grenade that can turn into the shotgun blast, and then everything else just gets stronger. But this is a little bit different, like different buffs depending on what grenade you want to run.
Yeah.
Really cool. And again, this seems like one of the only ways the Warlock can suspend. And there's just no way we know of at the moment to get woven mail outside of the fragment. So like that shows you what their specialization is. To kind of balance things out, which is, it's cool. It's smart. You're like, luckily I love thread lanes, so I don't care. Like this is what I'm here for.
Yeah. It'll be like, it seems just like a fun loop in general to try and figure out of like, all right, how do I always want to have threadlings on me at all times to like do my bidding more or less. And that sounds cool. And then on top of that, you have the exotic they showed, the last thing where you're like shooting tangles will also make threadlings, so you can use like that exotic on top of that to like make even more. So yeah, that's pretty cool. They showed their melee, which is arcane needle, which just looks cool. I forget the effect it had specifically. I don't know if it like I don't know if it was severing an enemy. I think they sever, each one severs, but I could be wrong.
Causing high damage and unraveling them on impact.
Unraveling, that's what it was. Okay. But basically, this is the first of these classes that have a 3 charge melee. You see this like the Warlock do like crazy like finger like pointing, and
it's so good.
And, like
dude.
It shoots out these little like needle like that like tracked enemies, and then you can hit somebody and it'll.
I popped off when I was watching this. I won't lie.
Yeah, for sure. It just looked cool because he just does like weird like you don't see too many. Yet we haven't even though like we haven't seen the weird wizardy looking like things too much with the Warlock, if that makes sense. Where like
I know, but we've gotten so many good grenade or melee animations over this last year. Yeah. Like the finger snap is so good.
Yeah,
the Hadouken is so
like
good.
They definitely make them feel more like the whole thing with the Warlock is they are like the magic class, and they're like casting and doing like spells more than like before, where it was just like let me just do like a kind of forced hand push, I guess. Where now they do like each of, like you said, the hand melees feel more like they're casting stuff rather than
and it's a combo like too. Yeah. Like you can rapid tap it and do 3 back to back, and each has like a different animation. Same with the Titan.
Yeah.
Right. I remember like when we got the Vidoc announcing Lightfall, and we were going through it way back when, and I was like, yeah, like you can see the UI with the Warlock, it looks like they have 3 melees. I don't know if that's just like a stand-in thing.
Right.
Turns out that was real. That's like just how it is.
That's just how it is. Yeah. And you said at the top of the show, like what if you put something on like the Hamkar grasp, like you get a 4th melee charge.
God, I hope so.
That'd be kind of nuts.
You get 6? Is that how that works?
Probably not that, but like
no,
yes.
For sure.
Like we don't know. Like if that works, how that works with like a 3 melee charge, because I don't think because I don't know. I guess like Warlock has not really had anything else that has had multiple charges out the gate. No. But we know I think
the other classes have gotten stuff like that.
Yeah, and so that's pretty cool. The unraveling stuff. it's still like that wait and see, like what does that exactly mean.
Yeah.
But Warlock just sounds fun, for sure.
Looks sick.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
A melee that actually does damage is just really exciting for me.
Yeah, like more proper like ranged melee. Then they show their super. Of course, they have all his new supers. Needle Storm, which like the first part of it basically looks kind of like a Blade Barrage type move where they send down this big storm of green like strand like blades and needles. Those will pierce and break into enemies, and then the defeated enemies turn into threadlings that will continue to like swarm around and attack anything that's left. So that seems like it'll be really good as well. Like it's just you just make all those threadlings, and even if you whiff with some enemies, you will then have those threadlings that come from the super.
They'll perch.
They'll
hang out with you.
They'll perch and hang out with you. After, or they will like take out any stragglers you might have missed with the super or didn't finish off with the super. So like that's like a really strong like combo there, for sure for that. But yeah, Warlock sounds good. I'm looking forward to checking them out for sure. The next up, let's move on to the Titan. We have the Titan Berserker, which is been the talk of the town in the Destiny the Destiny discourse circles as we could get into that. But that's because it kind of just, from gameplay, it's just a very melee focused class. But there is, I think there is still more going on than what meets the eye to that stuff. But we'll get into it. The aspects they showed, into the fray, destroying a tangle weaves woven mail onto the Titan and nearby enemies. In addition to reducing damage taken, this aspect also increases the Titan's melee energy regeneration while wearing woven mail. So it seems like that you want to be mailed up all the time on the Titan, because then you will constantly have those melees, which we learned the melee for the Titan also has 3 charges. So it seems like you can kind of just be meleeing all the time on the Titan with those big blades.
Yeah, I'm wondering, this melee cooldown's got to be pretty quick, right? Like, if you have 3 charges, it's got to be on the faster end, because it seems like the combo potential is where you're going to get the most damage. So you might want to wait until you have at least 2 charges to start popping off. I'm really curious what that's going to look like. And I mean, if this is like a really nice increase, like the Titan, this could be like the true Titan melee class,
Yeah. For sure, and like especially with like they've shown it using that melee ability, it has quite the range. Even if you just do one of those melees out there, and like you can cover a battlefield like really fast with like even just 2 of those melees. So I'm thinking of it as like a movement tool, and like that thing could be insane in PvP just from a movement perspective. Like, what if it is like other Titan melees where like, you can do one, but it won't actually eat your melee, and like a shoulder charge does. Like if you can just use that to move around, like holy crap, that's gonna be nuts. How much you can do that, and even just using like one to like do like a quick like lunge out of the way of a move or something, and or something like that still seems like really useful. And then you still have 2 full charges.
And it seems like you don't need to be sprinting to activate it to get that range.
Yeah,
so
exactly. Yeah,
you could go from 0 to 60 really quickly with some of this stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Or like, and how does that work? Like out of a Titan does a grapple, and can they like midair like do one of those and like do like a big lunge to get way more distance in the air? Like we don't know some of that stuff. So I think like the Titan could potentially just have like a lot of crazy movement we don't even know about yet. Which is like really interesting to think about as a Titan. It might have like more mobility than like some of these other like classes that we have.
Just throw on armamentarium and
exactly.
Go to town.
That's funny enough because that was like I already started like making builds, or not like just like very baseline builds for each of them, and that was like the one that was like my first pick out even before all this stuff was like, oh right, 2 grenade charges. Well, we gotta get 2 grapples, I would assume.
Yeah.
So I threw that on pretty much right out the gate for my Titan. So the next aspect, which we've seen a bunch of times now, is the Dranger's Lash. When the Titan casts their class ability, the Barricade, the Titan will blast forward a powerful ripple in reality, suspending enemies that are caught in the shockwave's path. So basically, yeah, it seems like a really cool loop would be pop that down, with the new exotic to get Woven Mail, suspend a bunch of enemies, and then the other aspect is then increasing your melee charge so you can just do a bunch of melees right out of the gate with the Woven Mail, and either sever stuff or get kills and be like a big tanky berserker bruiser, and just go to town. So like that's like that's I get the idea of like, yeah, we're just punching some more, but like this does seem like this seems more like you can do a lot more of that, where the Titan punching, like I'm not really doing a lot of punching on the Void Titan or Solar Titan these days. Where like
it's really Arc. Is just kind of the thing.
Yeah, and like even on Arc, it's just like I can shoulder charge, and like that's okay because it blinds enemies, and then I can then I can run off. Like I still don't like using the little like leap into the air and dive. Like that dive really just seems like it is a very cheesy tool in PvP nowadays, rather than like a thing you can use adequately in PvE, just because it leaves you so open. In a PvE environment. So I still just kind of use shoulder charge. And then you have like knockout, which is still pretty useful, like that aspect where you can then you just, once you have that proc, you can just kind of like do your normal melee, and you're just like wrecking general adds pretty easily with that. So yeah, it pretty much is Arc Titan, where like Solar Titan, it's like I'm just throwing a hammer at a dude's face now. Like I've not used the shoulder charge on a Solar Titan in years, because I can just throw the hammer and it's way more effective. Same thing with whatchamacallit, with Void Titan, where it's like I'm really only using, like, you can use the shoulder charge with Void, and it's like okay. Like the big thing about it is like if you kill an enemy with it, you get a full overshield, which is nice. But you can also just do that very safely with just a Barricade as well. So like usually it seems like it's better to just have that ranged Void Titan shield throw. But even that is like not the greatest, like, because I wish it, like, it does, but I think they like increased its damage at one point, so it is doing better damage and like kind of basic combat. But I really wish it had a little bit more ricochet to it, where like if you threw it, like most times it just hits an enemy and then just kind of peters off. I wish it would at least like hit an enemy, and if there's an enemy close enough, at least like ping pong between like one or two enemies and be a little more effective.
Yeah. Kind of like the Hunter melee ability that we're going to talk about in a minute.
Yeah, exactly. Especially when you have stuff like that, where it's just like, wow, these like their melee abilities on all these classes that are just like way better at doing the melee identity compared to like some of the Titan classes right now. So yeah. I get the thing where it's like just another melee with Titans, but like this one actually sounds like very interesting from that perspective, because you have so many melee charges, you have so many ways to give yourself like damage reduction and Woven Mail, and your melees weaken enemies so that you're doing less damage to you. So it feels like you could actually more properly be like meleeing up in enemies' faces, in a way that you can't really do on some of the classes right now. So that's kind of cool. But yeah, like I said, like I mentioned, the melee ability has 3 charges. They kind of get like a dashing lunge with each melee charge, and when you hit somebody within melee, if it doesn't kill them, they are severed, which makes them do less damage. So it could be a very useful tool for like just like slash a champion real quick, and then use one melee charge to slash a champion to like get their damage way down, and then like use your other melees just to get the fuck out of there. You could totally use it in that way too, which I think could be interesting utility in and of itself.
Yeah, I'm curious how what the full combo on a single target is going to do.
Yeah, how much damage it could do. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And then there's super, which is it's a Blade Fury, which that's when you go like full Wolverine, double blades on the hands mode, and you just run around slicing dudes. And it seems like how like they were describing it was like hitting enemies with the light attack. Light attack is more of like is charging up your heavier attack to do more damage. And I'm curious, like that could be really strong too. Like if you have a scenario where you can pop your super, you can pop you're about to get into a DPS phase on some kind of boss or whatever. Charge, you hit your super, run around, kill a bunch of ads, then blast it off on the boss or something. Like that could be useful as well.
And the heavy attack, I think, like suspends enemies as well.
It does have some kind of effect because they definitely have said like you can. I think the melees in that, the light melee is still in that form sever enemies, so you can do kind of these strand verbs as well within your super.
With the heavy attack, the Titan hurls a pair of projectiles forward, seeking out enemies, suspending and damaging them on impact. So that's still good. Suspend seems very good, just like freeze does. So
for sure. So that could be that'll be really interesting. I think the Titan has potential. Like I understand the complaints, but like I'm not fully on board with them because we've not played it.
It's too early.
A lot of the powers, like we don't fully understand yet. So that's
just like everything that we're going to talk about, like in this and the 12 other things that we're going to talk about. It's just too early to like get upset about anything.
Exactly.
It's and just the amount that we got this week, knowing that we're getting like a state of the game tomorrow and like guardian ranks and another Vidoc probably, like this is such a huge change for Destiny. Like so much of it is going to be just too difficult to wrap our head around until we play it. Like, that's just the reality of it in a good way, in an exciting way. Like we both agreed, I think, when they announced the mix up on the mods and all that, like Destiny needed a big shakeup. This is it, this is very, even more on like the meta textual level. Like this is very Destiny 3 level.
But massive systemic changes, which like, I think which the game I feel like needed in some regards. And, it's just like a change up in the game to like make it feel another thing fresh. To make the game feel fresh and like different ways to approach encounters and boss DPS and all kinds of other things. Like this is gonna PvP. This is gonna change up like so much stuff. It's like hard to really be like, oh my god, they ruined it. This is gonna be so underwhelming. When it's like we don't. There's like so many other parts that we don't even know.
There's so much.
For sure.
There's so much.
But
all right, anyway, I'll stop derailing us.
yes. Let's get back. We'll talk about the final Strand subclass here. That is the Hunter Thread Runner. They sound very fun to me. As one who's like back and forth on some Titan, or not some Titan, some Hunter like gameplay styles. Like this one spoke to me a little bit more.
You're going to be playing Hunter.
I'm more likely for our day one Lightfall legendary campaign playthrough. I'll probably be doing Hunter just for so we can have the trifecta, as it were. But for the first aspect up, which we've seen a bunch of gameplay and trailers so far, is the ensnaring slam. While in the air, press the air move input to downward slam, suspending all enemies in the air. What the heck is the air move input?
That's whatever your dive.
I'm guessing that's
your hold circle.
Yeah, that is like still your hold circle. Okay, I
figured it's mapped differently on PC and all that. So
that's a fair point. Yeah, it is.
They always use that kind of verbiage in these articles.
Yeah.
This is like the best looking dive out of all of them.
Yeah, because they showed it more clearly in this one, where it looks like you can like start it from way higher, and if you start it high enough, your like Hunter will straight up just like go into like a Superman looking like leap, like
it just looks so good.
And then like they like land and have like a really cool like ninja style like landing, and of course it makes like a big suspending burst towards enemies, and it'll wrap them up, and we'll see if that's annoying as being shadow dived in PvP when a Hunter just comes leaping out from a corner and just like dives right on you and puts you up in the air and you just get murked immediately. But
that what you were saying right now is exactly why pellet shotguns no longer have any airborne penalty. Hunter comes up, dives you. If you have like a pellet shotgun, you just headshot them immediately, and that's
just pop them and hope for the best, and they'll just be like, oh shit, yeah, for sure, yeah. But yeah, that still looks super fun in PvE because I can just see tons of moments like that where it's just like, oh shit, a bunch of enemies spawned in, panic, and
again, it's like a freeze. It's
just pop them up in the air. Yep.
They're helpless when they're suspended. So
yeah, in PvE for sure, like they're just helpless. So you can just you can kind of have that moment to like there's too many enemies around me. I need to do this real quick and pop up in the air, then just like get to safety, or just some other person can come in with a move and fuck them all up with when you kind of put them all up in the thing. It seems like a fun thing for sure. And it says I don't know if this will eat one of the abilities because this doesn't say it here, but it doesn't mention that it'll take one of your abilities. So I'm wondering if it's just a free one, but I don't know. That seemed like it'd be too good. There has to be some kind of cooldown.
It's got to eat the class ability or something Yeah,
because that's what it like on Void currently. The Void dive like eats your melee ability when you do it.
Yeah. But Shatter Dive doesn't.
Shatter Dive still doesn't, but it only shatters like frozen stuff. Like things have to be
That's a good point. So I didn't think about that.
So this doesn't have that verbiage, but I'm guessing it'll eat something because if you can just it's either going to eat something or it has like an extended cooldown, like you do it and then you have like suspend cooldown or whatever, or like slam cooldown or something like that. Like there's got to be something to it where you can't just like freely just like
Yeah, if you could though, we do actually have a problem.
Yes, yeah, we would. That would be the legitimate problem, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll have to see on that one. The next aspect is called Widow's Silk. This aspect grants an additional grenade charge. So there's your 2 grapples, like we thought for the hunter. The hunter's grapple ability creates a persistent grapple tangle when it latches, which fully refunds grenade energy when grappled to. Hunters can use his ability to set up chains of grapple points that their entire team can use, greatly enhancing their ability to quick movely around combat or traverse the environment. So basically, I think
this is so cool.
Yeah, they are like the movement in grapple classes makes sense because they're a hunter, because hunter's all about movement and other things like that. This is that just seems really cool. I think we saw one of these in the trailer. I think it was like specifically like we see like the Titan has like a bigger kind of glowy looking like tangle and like throws it, and then like the hunter grabs it. So like that could be just like the hunter, just like that's like the animation when you grab a tangle with a grapple maybe, but like it just looked like a different visually tangle than other ones we've seen.
Yeah, so I know what you're talking about.
It could be one of those, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, I really tried. Like this was one of the ones I couldn't find timestamps for. I think what you're talking about could be right. I don't know if it's like a thing where, for example, you just grapple up to a point and then like where, because we know that grapple like creates like an orb at its extension. Just like for the sake of if there's nothing to hit, it'll just pull you from there. Maybe at that point it creates like a suspended thing. They refer to it as a persistent grapple tangle instead of like a normal tangle.
A normal tangle, right?
But you can clearly see like what we were talking about earlier of like hunter goes first, grapples up, and then everybody can then get 2 grapple charges basically because they left behind this tether point for them.
Yeah, for sure.
So it enables the hunter to give everyone essentially a double grapple like they have. Yeah. So cool.
Yeah,
really
cool.
Cool idea of like a support movement ability where like hunters will now be able to help people get through difficult traversal areas.
Yep.
It's really smart.
Yeah, and since I'm guessing since it is a tangle, it would have the things that other tangles can do. So like at least is what I'm assuming, since like they call it a tangle still.
Yeah,
I would assume it's still a tangle. So like if you don't need it for that, you could just create a hunter can just create tangles in the environment to then like use for combat purposes as well very easily, which I think like they're multi-purposes in a cool way. So if that's how they end up working, like again, they could just be specifically for grappling, which would still be really cool. Like you said, like just being able to make those freely. And these are like, how long do those last? Like, can you just, make them in an arena and they're just there for a while and then people can just grapple all the time in this arena? You know what I mean? Like that could be crazy.
A 6-stack of hunters in a raid or something, or a 6-man activity.
Yeah.
With just tangle points everywhere.
Yep.
Wild.
Yep.
Absolutely wild.
Just like being able to free grapple all the time, like that'll be super cool. And I just that's what was speaking to me of just like having more ways to just like freely use this grapple and use it to its full potential is obviously going to be the hunter's thing, and that sounds super cool. But next up, they have their melee ability, which I also love. This melee ability, it looks so cool.
So
it's
cool.
called the threaded spike. They basically throw a rope dart, and it bounces between enemies, damaging and severing them. So they can also put sever on enemies to weaken them. So that's also like a really good way to do that severing like safely. If you like start an account, you can just throw that out, hit enemies and weaken them, and then you can the melee will return to the hunter. And you can time your button press to it says
snatch it.
To snatch it, and it gives you back some of your melee energy. It also gives some of your melee energy for every enemy you hit. So if there's like 5 or 6 enemies back, I guess we'll have to wait and see. But I'm guessing like if there's like maybe 5 or 6 enemies in an arena, it hits all of them, and then you catch it. Like you could potentially just have your melee back immediately or something like that, or like super fast. So that seems really cool.
This is so cool.
Yeah. I love
it's
stuff
so
like
good.
I love stuff like that. Where it's
and
you can have that timing aspect of like catching. That's something, honestly, again, like going back to the Titan melee stuff, whatever. That's something I've wanted for so long with the throwing hammer. Is like, even if it was just like an exotic or something where you throw your Titan hammer and you can call it back to you and get it. Like this is maybe maybe they have to like build this melee to like get to something like that where. That'd be so cool to just like throw your hammer and you do a Thor thing, just like call it back and just get it, and you're just like hell yeah.
Basically, put all this into the Captain America throwing shield. I think that would also be super sick of like catching the shield. Like if you like catch it on your arm or something.
Yeah, and just get it, and put it in, for sure. Yeah, they need more of that. That'd be really cool.
Bungie loves an ability that they've made if they put it in the trailer twice. That's how you know. Like the fact that we see the throw and catch twice, and that first time we see it in the trailer at 50 seconds to 52 seconds, it's great because he's like in he's circle surrounded by enemies, and he throws it between all of them, and then he shoots a shotgun blast, then catches the thing,
and then even the catching, it shows like the catching, and it's just really cool because you're just like.
And there's like a white flash to let you to like indicate the timing. It's really cool. Yeah. It's super slick.
Yeah, I like it a whole lot. And these across the board, these all sound super fun. If you were to ask, if you were to ask me first, like Hunter is probably the first one I really want to try out with the grappling stuff. Then it would probably be Warlock next, just to see how insane the threadlings can get, and then. I feel like the Titan will be one that like I still want to check out, but like it definitely has like the least priority. But I think it's also just gonna be a sleeper. Like we're sleeping on it right now, and people are kind of down on it. But like we're gonna get in there and be like, holy crap, this Titan is popping off with making over shields all the time, and for allies and themselves, and then that gives them a bunch of their melees super fast, and then you're just running around like Wolverine, like blading dudes. Like that sounds cool too.
It sounds really cool. Yeah. Like that's what I'm hoping. Mm-hmm. Then the last thing we got was the Hunter Super, which is called Silk Strike, which is just a really good name.
Yeah, going
super.
With the threads and the silks and stuff, it's really good.
And I like they added, they didn't show it in the trailer. They showed it in previous trailers. Like you have the R2, which is like you jump and do like a sweep under you, and it does a circle attack. They focused on
attack. Yeah,
they just focused on the light attack for this one, but they pointed out if you hit someone with just the tip. It does more damage.
Yeah,
it causes an explosion.
Got that Smash Brothers Marth tipper.
The Marth sword. Yeah, it's
cool. It's cool.
It's so cool.
How much damage that does? Can that be like a DPS option where you just have like a bunch of hunters like trying to
throw their darts?
Range, throwing their dart tippers out and trying to get bosses and find out how they can do extra damage. That could be really funny. Just like one well warlock. Just you got to place it right here so we can do our tippers in the well.
Just like five stabs going back and forth into the boss, like over and over again.
That'd be amazing. We'll definitely.
We're coming for you, Atheon.
Yeah, we're looking at your ass. Atheon, or are you doing to Raw? Because like, bro, stop moving. Get back here.
Stop moving. I'm hitting you with my dart. So dumb.
Yeah, it sounds so fun, but very dumb, but also very fun.
Oh yeah. Love it.
Yeah, like we said at the top, this is the deets I wanted. These all sound super fun, the hype continues to build for Lightfall. We're closer and closer.
It's palpable at this point.
It is palpable.
I know we've been talking about kind of throughout the whole Titan thing, obviously, to the point where Bungie comes out and says like, hey, like we understand that you might be worried about this, like just give it a chance.
Yeah.
Although to be fair, Bungie's just really great at communicating and the community is consistent in its overreactions.
Yes.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
And I get it, like we put a lot of time into Destiny. It's a thing, it's a big investment. So,
yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I hope that this is just going to grow and evolve, and Titan mains will be very happy. Like Ren, who's going to be playing with us on day one, our friend in our group that runs with us, he's going to be our Titan, and he is basically a Titan only. He does stuff on other characters, but he's mostly Titan. So, if you tune in on the 28th when we're playing, you will hear some long-term Titan thoughts directly for sure.
Yeah.
But I think it'll be good, and the point being, like, this is the beginning of Strand. They've said it's going to roll out similar to Stasis, so we're going to get aspects and fragments throughout the year.
Yeah.
I wonder if we'll get up to 4. I hope we get up to 4 aspects, and
cool.
Put it in parity with Stasis, or at some point hopefully get a 4th aspect for all of our light classes as well. So things are going to change and evolve. Like I definitely get the vibe that some of the hottest aspects are coming out first, but like Bleak Watcher was like what season of the Splicer? It was like 2 seasons after.
Think how integral that is to,
and that's like
Stasis Warlock now. Yeah,
exactly, to the point where they made a whole exotic kind of built around it, of the double grenade charge. So there is potential that the craziest stuff that we can't even fathom right now is on the horizon. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, for sure. It's just the beginning, like you said. And yeah, they said there will be these 2 aspects that we each noted for each class are the aspects launching, and then we only saw four fragments, but I'm assuming there's gonna be way more fragments than that we haven't seen.
Yeah.
So
I would bet we're gonna start with 8 and then we'll get up to like 12 or 13 or whatever later.
Yeah.
A couple of things I just want to throw out there that I also picked out of the trailer.
Mm-hmm.
At 06, when we see the Threadling grenade in the trailer, you can see they're in an arcade, which is sick.
Yes, yeah.
And there's arcade cabinets.
There's been a couple trailer shots that have shown that. Like there was a really good one in, I think, the environment trailer where you see like, I think a hunter doing like a new finisher that'll be up that I'll probably buy with money because I'm
spend money.
But they're in an arcade that like he's just like finishing a freaking Vex with his rope dart, and you're like next to a big arcade machine. You're just like, hell yeah, that's fun. It's a fun environment.
A thing a lot of people point out at 22 seconds when the Warlock is eating the grenade and doing the shots with it to suspend enemies, it seems like they're using a new 2-burst pulse rifle, which is interesting. We've never had a legendary 2-burst in the game, right? We just have Graviton Lance and Revision 0 or just the 2 right now. So could be
really
cool.
Like, it also gave me a vibe of like a Gambit weapon. Maybe not just because it had that kind of like that wood, like the kind of wood graining on it, which like I've only really seen those on Gambit style weapons. Yeah, because I was a servant leader in the game right now, and there's some older ones that kind of had that wood graining. So I'm curious, like that's going to be the Gambit like weapon drop, but it could come from somewhere else. Who knows? But yeah, definitely an interesting looking pulse there. I'm curious about that for sure.
At 54 seconds mid grapple, this is after the hunter catches their needle and it's all cool and stuff. They're holding, while they're grappling, in their offhand what looks like a hand cannon. It is not the hand cannon that we see in the key art. and all that is a different hand cannon with like a weird, like looks like a lion or fiery head to the tip of the barrel. This looks like a raid gun to me.
Interesting.
That was my theory. Like
raid
it
gun,
looks unlike
another exotic we haven't seen yet. Maybe
it could be an exotic. It just has an aesthetic to it that seems like it could tie into an environment. And I don't know. Keep your eyes on that one. Could be a sidearm also. And then we see some perched thread lanes at 119 if you want to see what that looks like. And then at 123 to 124, we very briefly see the hunter do the grapple melee attack. And it looks like at 122, just before that, you can kind of see there's some pretty generous aim assist on the grapple to a tangle, which makes sense as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think it'll be since it's so relying on doing movement stuff. I feel like they'll be okay with it being kind of very, very approachable in terms of those kind of things. I bet.
Yeah, Bungie's always good about good aim assist on things that feel like they need it. Yeah. I had a lot of trailers that I was coming through this week. We got Zelda stuff that's happening off in the other podcasts that we do. So it's like, I was very much in the mood for it this week.
Yeah, just looking at all the trailers. Yeah, trailer breakdowns, baby. Yeah, good time for sure. But yeah, that's kind of, I think
that's Strand.
That is Strand. There's some other articles that like kind of went into not too much more deep than what we had here in the main article, but there was definitely a lot of stuff out about Strand.
The other things I guess worth noting is it does seem like you have to finish the campaign to unlock Strand. I don't know if that like means like you'll be able to use it throughout the campaign. It seems like it. It seems kind of crazy.
Yeah. Considering like in the trailer, we also should have mentioned that like Osiris is like there with you in a brief. They show a brief cutscene of like Osiris like talking to you about Strand. So like
hyping you up.
Yeah, it's like he's like embrace Strand and stuff. Where it's like one. I wonder if it's like maybe it's just one. Maybe we don't know how deep that is in the campaign, to be fair, but like it's also just give that vibe of like, okay, they clearly know what Strand is, even though Bungie said they're discovering Strand for the first time. So I wonder if that's maybe just a couple missions into the thing, and you're still like figuring out Strand to a limit. We haven't fully embraced it or used it, but I'm sure like there will totally be. I remember playing through the Beyond Light campaign and getting those sequences where like you just had this mission where it was like, all right, here we're just gonna give you like infinite super energy, basically. You can just freaking pop off like a madman using stasis supers and abilities and stuff. Like I would not be surprised if there's maybe moments like that. Like I'm guessing that's maybe like we've seen a couple of trailers now show like these big Strand green like arch things or like towers that Guardians interact with. We see one pretty prominently in this trailer, so I'm wondering if those. Like if that's either like a part of like a story mission, or maybe that's going to be like an outside of the story mission thing where like maybe we like complete a story mission and then we're going just like traveling around Neomuna fighting these things to do stuff with.
Commune with them to get power or something. Yeah.
We'll have to see how that all plays out. But that's
shout out to the art of the week in the TWAB this week also of Osiris like playing the violin
on Strand,
for Strand, because again they use all string instruments for the trailer music, which is a very good touch.
Yeah, very good.
What a good trailer. Yeah. I've had it on loop on the on my other monitor. It's like what a good trailer.
Yes. It's such an awesome trailer. Hype building trailer for sure.
Yeah.
As we get closer and closer. But I'm sure though we might get some more Strand talk before the end of the year.
Also, look up Kevin
before Lightfall.
Look at Kevin Giannis talking about the original Warlock Super for Strand. Just because it's wild.
Yeah, it's one of the articles. Yeah, it's one of their ideas for what that thing could do. It sounded horrifying.
Horrifying, but also kind of great.
Yeah, kind of great for sure. But let's move on. We still got a lot to talk about. Because even though we're getting a bunch of new stuff with Strand, a lot of your favorite stuff is getting a bunch of changes because they followed up this article the next day with an ability changes article.
The nerfs are here
in Lightfall. Yeah, the nerfs, adjustments, all this other stuff is coming as we expected. Oh, wait, hold on.
freeze again?
No, I'm getting like some static. It's gone. Anyway.
Is it gone or is it?
Yeah,
is it my end?
It's gone now. I don't know if it was your end. I was hearing it. Weird.
Okay. If it happens again, sound off.
Sound off. Anyway, we'll cut off.
Just cut it out.
Just cut it out. Oh no! Oh wait, it came back a second ago. I don't know what's happening. I'm scared. All right. Yeah, I'll just start over. Anyway, that was enough about Strand. We have a bunch of Strand stuff to talk about. Or we talked about a bunch of wonderful things that happened with Strand. It sounds really exciting. I'm sure maybe we'll get a couple more details, maybe closer to launch, or I'm sure we'll get more trailers showing cool stuff. But now I'm just really stoked. We're basically less than 2 weeks by the time this podcast comes out to playing. So yes, the energy is here. But even though we're getting a bunch of new stuff, a bunch of new updates are also happening to our older subclasses and stuff. They're still obviously they're still going to be here, and we're getting a bunch of changes to them. Like they kind of stated this of like, hey, now that we did all the 3.0 subclasses over this past year, updating the old subclasses to this 3.0 system, and we really haven't done a lot of adjustments to the energy gains and other stats and things that came along with that were, they basically just said like, we haven't really updated that stuff since Shadowkeep in some way, shape, or form, which is like, yeah, it's pretty crazy to think about it. Like, that is right. Cause like the only really thing they did was like adjust the super charge rates.
Yeah. The tiers and the supers, which
they did like in the 30th anniversary, but they really haven't done anything else with much of the other stats. So this is kind of this is them basically, to put it bluntly, they are kind of nerfing us, but they are hoping that with all of the build crafting changes, this will also kind of even out some of the kind of adjustments they are making. But basically, here it is. They are rescaling the efficacy. There it is, of discipline, strength, and each class ability stat on grenade, melee, and class ability regeneration rates. So that means like mobility on Hunter, recovery on Warlock, and resilience on Titan, right? That's what basically I'm reading that. So basically from here on, the regeneration provided, the class regeneration, specifically like the ability regeneration provided by a tier 10 stat will now be roughly equivalent to the tier 8 in the previous system. So basically,
and this is grenades and melees as well.
Yeah.
I brought an example. I tried to find more, but like tier 10 to tier 8, right? Like Healing Rift, for example, tier 10 right now is 50 seconds. Tier 8 is 62 seconds. Towering Barricade 40 seconds to 55 seconds. Not a huge deal.
Yeah, this is like, I think this is also just like flatline, right? Like this is without any kind of other boosts from like, picking up like, whatever, we don't know, like, I'm sure there'll be things where picking up an Orb of Light gives you an armor charge, which lets you like get an ability back this way, or picking up these class specific items, which you heard about in previously, will also still give you back this thing. So I think this is the thing where it's just like, oh no, they're nerfing us, but like, I don't really think it'll make that much of a difference. Like where you'll feel the difference probably is something like PvP, where like, these things are a little bit longer to get now compared to what they were.
Which is what people in PvP want.
Yes, yeah, because they basically said they wanted to go back to where things were with the 30th anniversary kind of like balance in terms of like ability regeneration and weapon usage and things like that. Like it seemed like that was like, a lot of PvP players talked very positively of that, that era when it was happening. And so I think they're maybe trying to like get back to there a little bit and have that be like kind of the flat line of where we are now, and kind of as we build up on other things. I read a little bit of what it said in the article. It says Destiny 2 is a game about space magic, and your abilities will always be central to your combat loop. While this change looks like a lot on paper, we believe the build crafting improvements coming in Lightfall will more than make up for it. As a quick example, your legendary armor now has three 3 type-specific mod slots, up from 2, that can fit a wide variety of mods that are no longer restricted by elemental affinity. Then he listed off a bunch of these. So that is like the bomber mod. That used to be solar only. Outreach, impact reduction, all of the various kickstarts that were only on stasis. The invigoration, insulation, innervation. Those are like the mods where like if you pick up an orb of power, you get like ability energy back for whatever one it was tied to before. And then Ashes to Assets was also in Dynamo were also really good ones where like it was like Ashes to Assets, I believe, was the if you use a grenade to kill enemies, you get a portion of your super back. So like those are just like all free now, and also can like I guess some of them will be more stackable because now you can have 3. It says 3 type specific mod slots up from 2. So normally you could just have like 2 dynamos. So I guess now you can have 3 dynamos, which sounds kind of crazy.
Yep.
If it works like it is, like again, they might be adjusting some of those. They did say in that build crafting that like some of those percentages how they are in the game now will be adjusted in the final game. Because they definitely didn't mention like stuff like some of the if when we go further down they talk about new fragments that all the classes are getting, and it seems like some of the mods we have now are essentially being converted into fragments. So that's maybe how they're kind of balancing that, where those mods that used to be really good and would have those like maybe like those stat negatives, they're now going to be fragments instead.
And it seems like subclasses are going to be specialized to certain abilities, right? Like the breaches and the fire sprites, like they're going to give class ability and grenade ability specific, like respectively. So like solar, it's like, okay, I want a lot of bomber stuff. I want to get my grenades back, and I can build all around that. And void, it's like, okay, I want to get as many breaches, and I want my class ability as quickly as possible, right?
Yeah.
Which makes sense. It very much like on void, your dodge makes you invisible, your barricade gives you overshield, and your rift gives you the child or potentially devourer, depending on what exotic you're running. So it's like, yeah, all right, this makes sense. I was curious how that was going to kind of split up, but yeah, again, stacking like a bunch of utility mods like this it's going to be wild.
Yeah.
You could potentially like do every mod on every piece of armor is like all grenade based and just be getting your grenades constantly,
Yeah, for sure. That seems like that's maybe what they're trying to go for, right? Is like have like, let you go all in on like a specific thing in a way you weren't really able to before, but maybe in PvE, but in PvP that might not be as effective because, you have to do certain things are way easier to proc in a PvE environment rather than a PvP environment, right? So
yeah, exactly.
I think it's trying to like have the ways that you can use all these kind of mods to get abilities back super fast and build into it rather than just to have it by doing very simple things. But yeah, this again, it sounds like a big thing, but I feel like it will not feel once you get to the point where it's like, all right, I'm setting up builds and saving them in my loadout, then they will probably feel just as good, if not better in some ways potentially.
The thing where like I see this having a big effect is on new players, to be honest, like
right,
which I think is fair because like I play with a lot of folks that don't play Destiny as much as say you or I,
right?
And they don't have masterwork armor, they don't have masterwork guns, they might not have all the fragments and aspects unlocked. It's a different ball game, and I know to a lot of people that play a lot of Destiny, that sounds kind of crazy,
right?
But you got to understand it's a wide spectrum game, appeals to a lot of people. So I think it's going to feel a little harsher on those people. But again, I think the hope is the simplification of things is going to make them want to engage with those systems more.
Yeah, for sure.
So, something to keep in mind. I'm curious how this will look, but for you and me, I honest to God don't think we're even going to notice a difference.
Yeah, we're just going to set up the stuff we had on what we already kind of had, and we'll probably be able to like just run as we always were. And something also worth noting that's like they said in this blog as well. In Lightfall, we'll also be adjusting the base cooldowns of some grenades, melees, and class abilities. Will provide more detailed information in the patch notes. So again, this is just they're doing the overall stats, and obviously these mods will be influenced, but also they are going to be adjusting the cooldown abilities of the abilities themselves specifically. Still, we don't have that, and that'll be in the patch notes for Lightfall. So we don't know. So like some stuff could be way better, some stuff could be not as good. We'll have to just see how that plays out with those changes. But I think it was worth mentioning that because I feel like that might have been. I think some people have overlooked that, where like they say a couple times in this, like, hey,
this isn't all the nerfs.
this isn't all the nerfs or adjustments yet. Like we have, again, this similar to this next part where they say it again for this next part where they talk about a bunch of super changes across different classes. They said these aren't the only ones, but these are the ones they wanted to point out in this blog, and there will be more in the final patch notes, which usually drop like the same day the Lightfall drops probably. So big thing they're working on. So this seems like it is the kind of first start in a process of like trying to make the roaming supers more meaningful in PvE endgame. So this is what they're doing here. They are increasing the maximum amount of orbs that can be created by roaming supers from 5 to 7, and they are decreasing the one-off supers to 7 to 5. So I'm guessing like
Nova Bomb,
Thunder Crash.
What's the Arc one? The Arc Hunter one.
The Storm. Yeah, I forget something Storm.
Calling Storm.
Yeah,
I think,
the throwing. So basically, you just throw it out and it does a thing. Those will make up to 5 orbs now, and then you have your roaming supers like Fist of Havoc or I guess Nova Warp,
Spectral Blades.
Yeah, Spectral Blades. I wonder if this would include Golden Gun. I guess we'd have to see on that one. Because technically are roaming, right? I would assume this includes the Strand and Stasis subclasses as well. So those will also be making more or less supers. I wonder if I guess the Hunter one would be the one off, I guess, and then the other two are roaming. Technically, I guess.
No, the Warlock one's the one shot, and then the other two.
Sorry, I was thinking about the Stasis ones.
Oh, Stasis.
The Strand ones, you are correct.
The support supers are being unaffected, which is interesting.
Yeah. Ward of Dawn and Well of Radiance will still make the amount of orbs they do, and so does the
and Shadow Shot.
And the two variants of Shadow Shot that the Hunter has. Those will still make the same orbs. I think that's good though, because like they're since they're so utility based.
Yeah,
like I think that's good for them because they are used for those specific interactions, and those continue to be the very useful supers.
Yeah, I'm really curious because they said like, hey, we don't, we're working on roaming supers. This is the first step.
Yeah,
I'm very interested to see. I mean, I'm sure we'll see over the next couple of seasons, but what they're gonna do to roaming supers to make them better. Because I have realized like when I'm on Stasis, I just don't use the super. I just unless it's like a clutch up and shut everything down moment in a GM, right?
Yeah, it's basically, everyone's dying. Let me pop this as like a safety precaution because I can live. Yeah, I'm kind of with you. Like I think Stasis are the ones I think about. The biggest ones would like just give them like across the board PvE damage buff, and like they'd be pretty fine. I think. Maybe even just revert them back to what they were when they got a bunch of nerfs for PvP, and I think those like included PvE nerfs. I would maybe keep the PvP nerfs and try and maybe revert some of the PvE nerfs that came along with that. I think would be a good way to maybe go about doing those. I mean, I think for a lot of them, I think what we're seeing with Strand right now, where specifically calling out the Titan super, where it has a lot more verbs with the subclass tied to that. I think that's probably that's gonna be my guess is what they're gonna do, because I don't know if a lot of them have those. Like I think specifically like I'm thinking of like Fist of Havoc, which is like the Arc one. I don't think that has like jolt or anything. Like you might be able to blind with it, but you can't. I don't think you can apply jolt in any way. And like being able to like do that kind of thing with that would be much more powerful.
Like Daybreak doesn't even apply Scorch, you know, like it can cause ignitions on Final Blows with a fragment, but it doesn't apply Scorch, which is why we'll talk about Daybreak in a second. But but yeah, it's definitely like, you know, Stasis obviously applies freeze and slow and stuff. Like there's a lot going on there. There's a lot of potential there. Like Nova Warp should suppress enemies, right? Like it just makes sense. Spectral Blades should suppress or stun or whatever, or make enemies volatile or something.
Yep.
Yeah, totally. I'm with you.
Yeah, I think I think that's at least like a good first step. They did do another thing with Hammer of Soul for Titans, Daybreak for Warlocks, and Spectral Blades for Hunters. They decreased the base cooldown from 10 minutes 25 seconds to 9 minutes 16 seconds. That's like a minute and a half almost.
They're basically collapsing tier 5. It's gone, and now it's just into tier 4.
Into tier 4.
So there's no tier 5 supers anymore in their 5-tier system. So that's cool. I'm way more excited about the other Daybreak changes.
Yeah,
but
yeah, for sure. But we'll get into the we had the two more supers they called out. Or actually, it was a couple supers, but mainly 2 supers for the Titan are getting essentially PvP nerfs, is what I would call them, rather than I think like there will be like minor effects on PvE, but it doesn't really feel like they are that strong of PvE nerfs, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Where they're basically reducing the health of the Word of Dawn. It was 13,500, now it is 8,000, but they're also damage dealt to Ward of Dawn by PvE combatants is being reduced. So in general, Ward of Dawn's effective health in PvE should not meaningfully change. So basically, it seems like, you know, they're bringing it down, but it's going to take less damage from enemies overall. So it'll still be pretty much as it were.
And it seems like if it's not in the spot that they want it to be, they could just lower the damage that PvE combatants can do to it more.
Yeah.
To get it where it was. So if this ends up being like in GMs like bubbles are useless all of a sudden, I'm sure they can go in and adjust it.
Yeah, for sure. And like in fairness, like I've not really found myself using a bubble in PvE as much lately anyway. Like not to say they don't have their uses, but I think
Thunder Crash is just very good.
Yeah, Thunder Crash and like some of the other, like, you know, just the general gameplay stuff you can do on some of the other Titan classes are just like so useful that like you don't even really need a super in some regards. So the other thing they're doing is they're standardizing the damage weapon types can do. So kinetic and energy weapons are now going to do, like, energy weapons used to do more and kinetic used to do less. Now they're just standardizing that to all do the same damage to a Word of Dawn in PvP.
Biggest thing is this health reduced from 425 to 300 in PvP when you're in the ward.
Yeah,
that's gonna make.
Yeah,
that's rough.
That's actually gonna be the big thing. Is like you can probably actually. This is going to make it so you can probably actually get into a bubble and actually like stand a chance against the person you cast the bubble. And everyone knows, like, if you defeat that person as a bubble, it goes away immediately. So that's like all you really need to do. I think that's a good change though, because like the fact that, like, you know, currently in the game, and a lot of people probably are aware of this if you were playing the game during Iron Banner to an extent in the last few months. The only way to really get rid of those is to just counter it with a super. And there's specific supers, so like, you know, you have to have like a Thunder Crash, which is literally just gonna put you in there with the enemy. So if you don't take them out, you're probably dead. A Warlock can Nova bomb it, and like hopefully your Nova bomb will hit the bubble in a way where like it'll remain a little bit and still can hit the like little remaining trackers can hit the enemy. Sometimes you don't even get that, so you could pop a bubble and still have enemies just kind of hanging out, and you still get kind of clapped. So like you basically just have to you have to have that super to counter it, otherwise you're just kind of boned, or you're kamikazing yourself. Like I did plenty of times where I just slid into the bubble and would just like use my super and just blow up with everybody in it. I did that a couple times, or I would invis as a hunter and go in invis and then just like drop a bunch of tethers inside it and hope for the best. Like that's really felt like the only way to counter it in those, where like now it feels like, okay, if I have a hard hitting enough weapon, like I can slide in with like a fusion rifle or maybe like, you know, a shotgun.
A 1-2 punch shotgun seems like it's gonna do it for sure.
Yeah, you can just go in there and just pop them, and, you know, hopefully that'll be enough. And also they get a Void Overshield that it inherits the overshield, the 50% PvE damage resistance. So it seems like the overshield will technically be better in that bubble, but it also doesn't negate precision damage. So I'm guessing you can have a scenario where the bubble pops. I think you can still come out of that bubble with like the buff, or if you're like having a thing where you're like kind of trying to shoot each other, well, as you're going in and out of bubbles, as long as you can kind of get that like sniper shot on them, you might be able to pop a Titan, like kind of popping in and out of quick in the bubble real quick. So overall, it seems like it gives more options for people to like counter that bubble in PvP, which will be nice for sure in the future. The other one again was Thunder Crash. This received mainly, they should have to say it is most of this stuff does not affect PvE at all. The only really thing is like the maximum flight is reduced by like 0.5 seconds, which I really doubt anyone is going to notice a 0.5 second flight time change, right? Like
I think it's the third point here. Descent now begins earlier in flight that people are going to feel the most.
Sure, yeah, because we don't know how much that is, but I still don't think that'll be that big of a deal. The main thing this is trying to prevent is like in higher end PvP, there's a lot of scenarios where you could pop your Thunder Crash and just like fly around like a madman in a group of enemies, and luckily if you're lucky enough, you can just kind of, or not that lucky generally because it's not too difficult to do, you can just kind of like skirt past an enemy and you'll just get them in the flight rather than hitting them directly with it. So you can just like easily take out a whole group of enemies, or our team or enemy team members or whatever in PvP with it. But now they're making it a little bit harder it seems like, to hit that. So, that'll be good for them, I guess. That I feel like it's just, I don't play PvP at that level, so like I'm still probably,
it's hard to tell on that one.
Yeah, I'm probably still gonna see a Thunder Crash and be like, well, fuck me, I guess, and it's just gonna it's a good person's gonna land right next to me and blow me up, so that's usually how it goes. It'll probably be similar to what it is, all things considered. And the other thing they're increasing Fist of Havoc, the other the Arc Titan super that we talked about earlier, so now it'll have 20% more damage in PvE, as well as making more orbs than it was before. So hey, maybe it could be interesting. We'll have to see. It really just comes down to how useful it is in GMs and some other end game stuff. I think they will need to make more changes, but like they said in this article, like this is probably the first part of like other changes coming in the future. So
yeah.
For sure. So we can just move on now to some of the other super stuff, because there's some other things, but like I don't think it was
we got to get through stuff.
We still have a lot to talk about. So next up, like you said, the Warlock Daybreak is getting a bunch of updates as well. They're reducing the super energy cost of basically when you swing and shoot a big fire blast, it would take up a certain amount of energy for your super meter. Now it's going from 10% to 6.5. So that's a pretty significant lower.
That's huge.
So that's you're probably going to get a lot more swings out, and it is also getting its damage increased by 25%.
25%.
That's a pretty.
This is wild. I'm going to use Daybreak when we start Lightfall. I'm actually kind of excited.
Yeah, get your Dawn course back out, and that thing could be pretty strong. And I'm curious to see that. That could be really fun. It could be a very good add clear super again.
I've been calling for this since Solar 3.0 Warlock came out. Phoenix Dive, base cooldown reduced from 82 seconds to 55 seconds. Thank God. While Heat Rises is active, Phoenix Dive's restoration is increased from 1 second to 3 seconds. While Daybreak is active, Phoenix Dive cooldown is significantly reduced. They say allowing for rapid reactivations. It seems like it's basically instant cooldown. Yeah. And while Daybreak is active, Phoenix Dive detonation maximum damage increased from 80 to 220, which is enough to kill any Resilience Guardian in PvP, which seems maybe a little wild. Maybe come the fuck down about this.
They want that Daybreak going.
I like Phoenix Dive. I wasn't one of those people complaining that it is a class ability replacement. When I do solo stuff, I still use Phoenix Dive just because in solo dungeons, a lot of times, I don't have time to put down a Rift. I know it's very good, obviously. Right. I know how good Rift is. But I like Phoenix Dive. I always thought it was a cool move. I think it makes sense in that slot. I just thought it had too long a cooldown.
Yeah.
At tier 10, this might be around like 30 to 28 seconds. That's really good. Especially with like the Scorch stuff that regens your class ability, those fragments that we already have. So yeah, I think this is great.
Yeah, I really want to see. I feel like they're pushing this to be like like potentially like really good in PvP tool for more movement stuff, but also like you could have use in PvE as well. So I think they're both pushing for that, and like I think they do have to make these harder swings on this stuff, right? Because like you said, Healing Rift, and so useful.
It's
useful. Well of Radiance is still one of the best supers in the game, period. So like they have to make these bumps to like these other stuff to get people off that stuff, because people are still there's probably still people who will read this and just go like, okay, I'm gonna keep using Well. I like using Well of Radiance because it is just that good, right? Like that's just how it is. So like I do appreciate them like taking some harder swings at these other things in the Warlock to at least get people to try it, you know.
Yes, new stuff. We got some new
stuff. So let's we talk about the new fragments.
Yeah, we've talked about this before. This is where this whole, I know you might be sad that you lost whatever hammer thing that Titans don't have anymore, whatever healing thing Warlocks can't have to dedicate themselves to healing grenades. I don't care. This is what makes this system great. It's that they can just add little bits to it that will be easier for them to make, and can completely change everything for how you use the subclass. So I will go through these. This is for Arc. Spark of Instinct, which is brand new. When critically wounded, taking damage from nearby enemies emits a burst of arc damage, or damaging arc energy that jolts target. This is Reactive Pulse, I think is the name of
that was the mod. That was the mod originally. Yep.
Didn't jolt targets, it just was like an arc blast or whatever. Obviously, this is way more useful.
Jolting targets, yeah.
And then Spark of Haste, you have greatly increased resilience, recovery, mobility while sprinting, which seems great.
Yep.
Kind of reminds me of, there's like a mod for like Master and Grandmaster or whatever, Master and Legendary Lost Sectors that's like you have increased recovery while sprinting. I forget what it's called. This is kind of like a built-in. This makes so much sense. Get amplified, run around, become unkillable. Perfect.
Yep.
For solar, we've got the fire sprites, which are new. I mentioned earlier, only give grenade energy on pickup, which is, now we have stasis fragments for melee energy, fire sprites for grenade energy, void breaches for class ability, and arc ionic traces for just a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
Very cool. I like that delineation. Curious if how Strand stuff's going to play into that. We'll see.
Yep.
Ember of Mercy. When you revive an ally, you and other nearby allies gain restoration. Picking up a fire sprite grants restoration. I like that.
Yep.
It has 2 uses. Really cool.
Yep.
I know people are worried about this in trials. Whatever. Just calm down. We'll see how it works out. Ember Resolve, Solar Grenade, Final Blows cure you.
Yep, that's going to be super good.
I don't know if this is solar grenades as in solar grenades or solar grenades as in any solar class grenades. You know what I mean? Like,
I think. Yeah, true. It says solar grenade.
The big fire grenades are called solar grenades.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah.
So just to temper expectations, maybe we're not sure yet. Again, we just got to get our hands on it. Still very cool. Phoenix Protocol mains are stoked.
Yes.
Ember of Tempering now creates a fire sprite on solar weapon kills while active, in addition to its original effect. This is what's the Tempering's original effect? Do you remember?
I don't remember off the top of my head.
Well, you can pull that up while I'll go through the list.
Yeah.
Ember of Combustion now creates a fire sprite on solar defeats, in addition to its original effect. See what that is in a second. Then Ember.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So sorry, you had, what was it? Ember of Tempering, and then Ember of what?
Tempering, Combustion, and Searing are the 3 that are getting updated.
Okay. I'll pull these up real quick while you're going.
And Ember of Searing now creates Fire Sprite when defeating Scorch targets, in addition to its original effects. I believe that's the one that gives more Scorch stacks for everything that Scorch is.
Yeah, so Embering of Tempering is solar weapon final blows grant you and your allies increased recovery for a short duration.
Damn.
So you'll get short. So yeah, it'll make the weapons make a fire sprite.
Jesus.
And then Ember of Combustion allows every super final blow to trigger an ignite, causing every enemy you kill to explode and deal massive AOE and damage. So you'll ignite enemies with your super and make fire sprites from your super.
Ooh.
Then Searing. Let me look up Searing real quick.
I'm pretty sure Searing is just more double the scorch stacks, whatever it is.
Member of Syrian grants about 20% melee energy upon defeating a scorched target.
Oh, okay. That's different.
So basically, you defeat a scorched target, it makes a fire sprite, and gives you melee energy.
and like just like Ionic Traces and Wells in the past, like keep in mind there is going to be some kind of passive background cooldown between fire sprite spawns, I'm sure. So this isn't going to be as crazy as it seems, but it's definitely cool.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, like, they're fragments, so like you can only have so many on at a certain time. Then like it's like you'll have to like maybe use one compared to the other, right? So like,
yeah, it is definitely a thing where now I'm like feeling the stress of like, boy, I wish I had more fragment slots on some of these things.
Yeah, and I think that's what they're gonna go for, right? They want you to have like those choices to make, and also like the other thing they said they didn't say is like sometimes these things have like stat reductions and positive negative stat allocations depending on which one you're wearing, right? So some of these could have like negative stat buffs on top of what they do.
That's a super good point. There's going to be deficits to these that could be enormous. Yes. Keep in mind. So please again temper expectations. I like how they don't tell us those things.
Yeah, they didn't mention that thing. I definitely noticed there was no mention of that. I was like,
yeah. So solar stuff's really exciting for me as Healy Warlock. Yeah, I
definitely thought of you as soon as I heard a lot of this. It feels more like you could do potentially a more proper like healing class.
I'm thinking. I've been thinking about it. I want whatever the new solar warlock aspect is to either grant just straight up 2 healing grenades for if you're running heals, or create fire sprites when you heal someone. That sounds super cool.
Yeah.
Lean into the thing. I know people want another healing warlock aspect. Something to,
or like make that an exotic. Exotic would be really good for that as well.
Yeah, I have a feeling we're gonna get a healing grenade warlock exotic similar to Osmiomancy at some point for sure.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to it because I'm gonna run that every raid that we do.
Yeah.
On the Void end, Void Breach is new again. They get class ability energy on pickup. Echo of Cessation. Finish your final blows, create a burst of void damage that causes nearby enemies to become volatile. Defeating volatile targets also just happens to create void breaches. This one's wild. On the PvE front.
Yep.
Very good. If you're a Fellwinter's Helm main,
or
I don't know who you are.
Or using our Invis Hunter.
Your Falcon Hunter.
Your Falcon. Yeah, that's going to be wild.
Yeah, but the Fellwinter tie-in here is very interesting because that obviously does weaken, a 30% weaken on finishers, and now volatile stuff. Very cool. Echo of Vigilance. Defeating targets when your shields are depleted grants you a temporary void overshield. Listen, PvP people. I know.
It's going to be insane.
I don't know how this is going to work in PvP, and they have specifically not told us. I don't think this necessarily means every firefight ends with you getting a full void overshield. I don't. This could be like a little teeny void overshield, like one stasis fragment overshield.
Yeah, it could be like a little chunk. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I think this is definitely geared toward PvE stuff. What I will say though, the idea of this with collective obligation. Extremely cool. Everyone just calm down. And this is the one. So many people are upset about this fragment. It's fine. Just calm down. Just give it. Let's wait till we get there. Before we jump to conclusions. Echo of Domineering now creates Void Breach when defeating suppressed targets in addition to its original effects. Again, we might need a reference sheet on that. Echo of Harvest now creates Void Breach when defeating weakened targets with precision damage. This one, I believe, was making an Orb of Power with precision damage.
So I have them up as well. So
Okay.
Echo of Domineering is after suppressing a target, you gain increased mobility for a short duration, and your equipped weapon is reloaded from reserves.
Okay. So you get breaches on those suppressed defeats as well, which that's cool. And then Echo of Harvest.
This fragment only triggers on precision kills against weakened foes. Wait, what? Why does it only say that? That's not helping at all. Let's see. Inflicting suppression through your weapon or abilities will reload your weapon from reserves and grant 50 plus. That's why is this? This is Echo of Harvest. Why is it not? Why are these giving me wrong answers? Hold on.
Sorry, and then Echo Starvation is the last one. Grants Devour on a Void Breach pickup. I believe that was what Devour on a power Orb of Power pickup was what it was before.
There we go. So here we go. Now I have.
So I can pull it up in the Destiny app as well.
I don't know why Echo of Harvest is not giving me the. Yeah, it's because these things are like giving them. It's weird because like it's just Google's giving us the bad end of the stick, because like all these other ones I like looked up and it was like, hey, it tells you exactly what it does, and now none of these other things are like telling me what it does.
Can you see Echo Starvation?
Nope. The internet ruined us. The internet ruined me. That's what I'm saying.
Monsters. I'm trying to pull it up in the app just because you can see this stuff in there as well.
Yeah, and this it's just
here we go. It's what Echo of Harvest.
Yeah.
Defeating weakened targets with precision final blows will create an Orb of Power. So now will also create a Void Breach. And then Echo Starvation, picking up an Orb of Power grants Devour. Now that also applies to
avoid
breaches.
breach.
I really like that. It'll just blanket apply to both. That's smart.
Yep. That is really good. Have Devour up way more.
Yeah. That's 2 out of 3 articles down.
Yep, 2 out of 3 articles down. Those are our abilities. We had a TWAB as well. The week of Bungie. It had a decent amount of information as well, but not as much as the others, luckily.
Luckily we can kind of focus on the important stuff here.
We'll just shout out the bigger things. The biggest thing I would say is resonant elements. The base currency, the little Dorito chips, are going away.
They're gone
in Lightfall. They're just gone. That's crazy. Think of how crafting started in Witch Queen, when it had like literally like
20 materials.
Yeah, it had like 8 different currencies, and now we're down to like what, 3?
Like 1 really Ascendant alloy,
there's
and like
alloys,
that's the only.
There's like the green ones.
Oh, that's right. Harmonic alloys and resonant alloys.
Yeah, and one of them only applies to raid weapons, so it's technically really only like 2, you could say.
And those are going away at some point.
Yeah,
they said
this is like another first step, and they're going to be doing that. So expect crafting 2.0, I guess, in for later in the year. Basically, is what they more or less were saying with this little blurb they said. You already mentioned it's the Solstice armor. It's going to have the green glow for Strand when you have Strand on.
Great.
Yep, it's got, and it's all like it's like the last like couple ones they did. So it's a couple of them that have it. So that's cool. Spiders, mostly Spiders 1, basically overall for the Festal Lost armor. We have Spider Titan and Spider Hunter coming, and then we get Beetle Warlock, which I was disappointed by because I don't think Beetle Warlock looks as good, but it's fine.
We were all disappointed. Don't worry.
Yeah, that'll just be what it be. But those are your Festal Lost winners. And then DCV, they had a link to this was linked in the Bungie blog. But they updated the content vault pages to show what's going away and staying. I think the 2 big things are pretty much all the seasonal stuff is going as we expected, besides the 6 battlegrounds that are introduced over the year. So the 3 PsyOps battlegrounds in Season of the Risen when Witch Queen launched are staying, and the 3 heist battlegrounds from this season, the Seraph, are staying, and they are going in the Vanguard Ops playlist, which is great. More content. Which is great. For that playlist.
Derelict Leviathan is going away though, so if you want to spend any time there, go do it now.
And the Seraph's Shield mission that is from this year, the Elixir Quarter that was also on the Helm is also going away.
Came back just to go away again.
Yeah, same with the Leviathan. Both of those gotten content vaulted 2 times now, which is pretty funny. But that's just how the content vault be, I guess. But yeah, that was your TWAB. That was pretty much
the other thing was they said like all of the things that will have Strand effects, all the perks and stuff, osmosis, elemental capacity, those stuff we know. Interesting though. Explosive payload, dragonfly, which are legendary weapon perks. Just throwing it out there.
They said chain reaction as well. In fairness, we know that those perks they work on other things if they have them on, like, I know like the solar explosive payload technically is like a solar shot on the
and same with void stuff.
There's a scout, but they had a couple Strand shout outs of like, chain reaction was also, I think, in that list. So
I'm curious that they said
worth noting. Yeah, for sure.
Bombardiers are going to work with Strand. I'm curious what the effect of the bombardier bomb is going to be. Hopefully, it like suspends targets. That'd be cool.
I feel like it wouldn't suspend just because of PvP, but I think it would be like sever, to play on the safe side for sure. But
sever is also going to be bad at PvP.
That's fair. All of them will probably be a little tricky.
Be lamented. Yeah. Very good stuff though.
Yeah, that was mostly it. What I think what we're going to close on here, and I'm going to put a link to this in the description. Somewhat a world event that happened was Syria and Turkey were affected by this huge earthquake. It's terrible. Like I read this morning that like the death count is over 30,000. It's kind of insane. Like it's not even like that's not even exaggeration now at this point. It's insane. But Bungie is always really good about like putting together like these big efforts, and with their Bungie like help stuff. And they put together like a link. You can donate up to $25 and get a cool emblem. So I think it'll still be going by the time this episode goes up. So if you really want to donate to that, I'll put a link in our YouTube description for that. And always shout out to Bungie for coming together for this kind of stuff, because that's a horrible thing that happened.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all our news. Yeah, we had to speed it up a little bit for that last part because we were
trying to keep it in the 2-hour range at the upper limit of it.
Yeah.
So
and we had a lot to talk about, to be fair.
A lot of good stuff.
A lot of good stuff. Again, they keep hitting us for like these last like 3 or 4 weeks of just banger after banger of like big info dumps, and we literally know the same day this podcast goes, we're gonna get another one.
Yeah.
So we will
like a 5,700 word thing or whatever.
It's great. That's crazy. I'm not really. And then they also talked about the year ahead as well. So it won't just be about Lightfall. It'll be other things. So we'll probably hear about, ideas, more PvP stuff, like different things and updates that are happening across the game.
We know the seasonal model is definitely going to be updated. Like they've talked about like, hey, season 21, 22, like we're working on those now, and we're, reconfiguring what the model is going to look like. We know that it's been the same for a while. So just like knowing that, like every mechanic that you have known, the only things that honestly aren't changing are like the guns that we have and that's it. Everything else like is going to be completely upheaved and changed in a way that just has not happened since Shadowkeep.
Yeah.
And since the introduction of Stasis and Subclass 3.0s. So yeah, it's just, there's a lot of trepidation. There's a lot of unknowns, but like lean into the excitement of that. Like if you've played Destiny, nonstop for 2 years, like you and I have, you even longer, like I'm sure on some level you are tired. Just in some way you're like, okay, I get it. I'm just going to run a lightweight SMG, whatever. This stuff is like going to hopefully get you into the mindset of like, oh wow, like I can do like a huge grenade focus. I can do a huge healing focus. I can be all about mobility and grappling and stuff. There's so much new and loadouts and guardian ranks and potentially like a legendary strike playlist that maybe is happening, that we hope is happening.
Yeah.
Like there's so much. Just like understand that it's going to feel really fresh. It's going to be a new campaign that if it's anything like the Witch Queen, it's going to be great. and we just gotta kind of hold the course until the 28th. I think once we get there, we'll have a much better idea of how big this is going to be.
Yeah, for sure. It always happens when we get a big expansion for this game. It feels like a major moment in the game, which they always intend for that stuff to be, right? And but this feels a little different because of how many things are changing. Because it felt like a lot of things were changing with the Witch Queen, right? Like, you're just like, wow, they're doing these new campaigns. They're updating they're updating the first subclass. We're getting all these new subclasses over the year, and that was a big deal. We got a new weapon. We got a new weapon type, and now, but then you compare it to the things we've heard the last 3 weeks of just they're completely changing how we build our characters, and completely changing the way we are gonna people are gonna be introduced to the game with guardian ranks and stuff which we don't even know about yet.
Yeah,
it's just it's gonna be a wild time.
And things like loadouts and all mods being unlocked and all these things, they're just huge. I can't understate or overstate how huge they are to new and old players. I think what's exciting too is these kinds of things will make the game hopefully A, more accessible, but B, it's for endgame players. All of this is for people who just
as good as for us. Yeah, people who play every week and are coming in every week for sure. I think there is definitely, like you said, the trepidation, but I think we're also just getting so much information thrown at us. It's it'll be hard, a little harder to get lost in the sauce in this stuff, right? Where it's oh yeah, how much is obviously we're saying the game is changing a lot, but I think even we don't realize how much it's going to change.
Exactly.
And so it's just better to just we're
go along for the ride.
Yeah, we're on the ride, and then the 28th, everything will make a lot more sense, and the 28th and beyond. But yeah, I think we that's going to do it. We're now surpassing the 2-hour mark.
Yeah,
which we've done it with our first 2 hour, which granted is pretty normal for us when we are talking about Nintendo stuff or something, another podcast. So it was bound to happen here on our Destiny show. But yeah, we will be back. Like we said, we already pretty much know some things were coming. For the next episode, we'll be talking about that state of the game article from Joe Blackburn, whatever 30 billion other articles we probably get, and we'll be talking about the finale of season of the Seraph.
Yeah. Will Rasputin die? Who knows?
Yep, who knows?
We'll find out, I guess.
We will find out here very soon. But thanks, everybody, as always, for watching us. Oh, yeah, one last thing I should have said at the top. We're on podcast services now, too.
Oh, yeah, you can listen to this. It should be up on Apple Podcasts by the time this is out, too. So.
Yeah, we're on Spotify now. We're on Amazon Music and a couple other ones. I just kind of immediately I just went on the back end and checked a bunch of boxes and then looked and I was like, okay, yeah, we're up on those. Cool. All episodes, including this one, will be on YouTube as always here on Humble Tower, but we're also now going to be on podcast services. So yippee, go listen or watch wherever you like. But yeah, thanks everybody. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.